Hello and welcome to a video with me, Raindale. This morning, it was announced that we would be getting Winter, Viktora, and Vinera. And that comes as a big surprise. I wasn't really prepared for that. But hey, let's take a look at the units together and see how much it's worth it to invest now, considering all the other good things that are coming very shortly in War of the Vision. So, we'll begin with Viktora. And she is a sniper main job, so very comparable to Nivlu in that sense, but her sub-jobs make her very different from what we currently have in terms of ranged attack options. So, I brought up her stats here. I would say what's most noteworthy is the fact that it's a job with move 3, jump 2, so rather mobile. She does have a little bit of defense, very high attack and dexterity, and medium agility for a ranged unit. She also has some very decent resistances, only being weak to striking and slightly to magic. So she's not as squishy as other gunners. She also has quite a bit more HP. Now, if we quickly take a look at her TMR, I just want to mention that in my opinion, her TMR is not a good reason to pull for her. If you like the unit, that's fine, but the TMR itself has some okay stats, but the ability is nothing incredible. It increases jump for her and an ally, but only for one turn, so you can't get that much use out of it. So back to the unit herself, her master ability improves the HP and attack of all water units in the team, and she has a decreased AP consumption, which is always nice. If you're running Bales on her, you probably won't care too much about it, but she has some great TP abilities to generate AP, so being able to consume them a little bit slower might be good for her. So, let's compare her stats to the other sniper that we have currently in Global, and that's Nivlu. She has quite a bit more HP, so that's very impressive. She also has a lot more attack, and then comparable dexterity. The main drawback she has over Nivlu is her agility, which is a whole 10 points lower. So she is not an extremely fast ranged unit. She is, however, much more bulky, and she has more damage. So overall, these are very good stats for a ranged attacker. Now, the main thing about her is that she is a ranged attacker with a lot of staying power. She is harder to take out. Usually when you play a gunner and the enemy gets near them, they just die, right? Your gunner's dead, or your archer's dead. But with her, she has access to the paladin job, which means that she's a lot more resistant to physical attacks than any other ranged attacker in the game right now. And that is reflected in her passives here. She has access to Holy Knight's protection, giving her 12 defense and 12% HP. And since she already has 4 defense in her just job tree, that means she can go all the way to 16 defense before adding in any equipment. For a ranged attacker, that's pretty impressive. Now, all of her passives are good. You could go for extra range, you could increase your missile attack and luck. You could increase your tankiness, and you can also go for 40 defense penetration. And keep the defense penetration in mind, because that's one of her big strengths. We have 40 here. With her release, the Platinum Bow will come out, and the Platinum Bow has a defense penetration of 20 built in. So right now, just with that, she can ignore up to 60% of a target's defense, which is pretty impressive, right? She's resistant to physical attacks, and she's good to ignore defense. So she really has a thing against physical bruisers and physical tanks. She's going to be taking them out very easily. Now, her counter abilities are nothing out of this world, but the Paladin's Guard, again, makes her tankier against physical attacks. So that, I would say, would probably be my go-to choice, no matter the matchup, unless you're fighting magic teams. Her limit burst is interesting. It could see some use in an evasion team where you blind the enemy team, reducing their accuracy. But honestly, with a very heavy AP cost, you're going to need bells on her if you want to use it. And she has other moves that are great. So let's take a look at those moves. Now, she's a sniper main job, and in the video announcing the release of those units, they mentioned that they will be getting an update that Global gets, and I'm guessing this update will be the EX job, because what else would they really be talking about? So, when we looked at her stats, we were looking at her stats at level 99, but when looking at her kit, I want to take a look at what she'll get with her EX job, because that's right around the corner, and hopefully they'll be getting their EX job abilities quickly. So she has the same exact kit as Nivlu in her sniper job, so the ability to reduce enemy agility, increase her own range and defense penetration, dispel in an AoE, decrease enemy movement, and break physical barriers, right? The same things that Nivlu has. When she gets the EX job upgrade, her ability to decrease move has a little bit of extra range, and then she gets a large AoE attack with the same AoE. She gets a large AoE attack that hits in the same pattern as Barrage, and deals less damage than Barrage, but decreases attack and magic by 39%. So that's a very powerful move that she'll get with her EX kit. But even without that, the sniper's job is very strong. And something I want to point out is, if you're using her with the tune-up passive, you have 40% defense penetration. With the Platinum Bow, you're up to 60%. And if you're using Target, the sniper buff that increases defense penetration by another 40, you now have 100% defense penetration. That means that this unit has the potential of completely ignoring defense. Not going to be great in all matchups, but against physical tanky units, this is going to be incredibly strong. She can just shred through Engelbert and Warrior of Light and those types of units. Her sniper subjob is nothing out of this world. She can buff couple things. She can disable at a distance with very low damage, but I think her other subjobs are so good that you will very rarely be equipping Sniper. Now, those subjobs are the Dual Gunner and the Paladin. In my opinion, the Dual Gunner subjob will probably not see that much play. Gunners have the disadvantage of having to think about the height difference, and her sniper abilities do not have that disadvantage. So I would say the only reason to use the Dual Gunner subjob is if you're fighting in a flat map and you want to benefit from those large AoE attacks, such as the horizontal shot. Or maybe if you're going for an evasion build of some kind and you want to use Smokescreen to increase your evasion a little bit. Otherwise, the Paladin job will probably give you a lot more survivability. She does not have access to Courage, but she does have access to Saintly Wall, reducing physical damage by 50% for 3 times, apologies. And she also has access to Sentinel, which means that if she's not in range to attack, she might just buff her defense and make sure that she does not go down until she can attack again. So, all in all, her sniper job already has a lot of offense and very powerful moves, so you don't need the offense from Dual Gunner that much in my opinion. I think the Paladin job will allow her to stay on the field longer, and that's really what you want from an attacker. So far, she seems very strong. Now, what about Vinera? She's a pugilist main job, and the funny thing about that is we just got one with the release of Raldor, so we'll basically be getting 2 of those back to back. Her TMR is, again, not great, not the reason I would pull for the unit. It has some very nice stats, a lot of HP, defense, and evasion, but the ability increases move and accuracy for just 1 turn, so you don't see that much use out of it. Now, it does have 2 casts, but still, not the most incredible ability, in my opinion. Now, we'll look at her stats compared to Raldor in a minute here, but I just want to point out that she increases HP and Earth attack for Earth allies. So again, if you want to build a Earth-oriented team, she might be a good addition to your unit pool. Her status ailment resistances are nothing out of this world, and if we're looking at her resistances, this is where it gets a bit interesting. Winter Vinera has decent slash resistance and pretty good magic resistance, and her kit is designed so that she's a decent physical bruiser, but a really good magic bruiser. So she'll be different from Raldor in the sense that she has less ability to resist physical damage, but a lot better resistance against the magic enemies. So depending on who you're fighting, she can perform better or worse. Now, let's compare her stats to the brand new other pugilist. So she has basically the same amount of HP, a little bit more attack, the exact same speed, and basically very similar stats around the board. Now, her defense is already a whole 6 points lower than Raldor's, but she has 8 spirit to make up for that. And then, while Raldor has positive resistances to piercing and missile, she actually has weakness to those, but she's strong against magic. So they will be strong against different enemies, basically. They have their own niche, but their stats themselves are very similar. So if you want to know how Vinera will perform in terms of damage, just use Raldor a little bit or fight him in arena. You'll see what kind of damage she'll be able to do, and that's it. So, taking a look at their support abilities. Well, she has the ability to increase her accuracy, agility and luck. They're all pretty interesting here. With her EX job, she will gain defense penetration up to 30%, which is a very nice addition to a damage dealing unit, but her base kit does not have access to that. Now, what I like is she has the ability to increase her magic resistance again. So if you're fighting magic enemies, you are now running with 27% magic resistance, and she can increase her move and jump, getting to a very impressive move 4, jump 3, which should allow her to go over basically any obstacle in her way. So depending on the map, that can be a great passive as well. All of those are good, really. She's a good all-around unit in terms of support abilities. Her counter abilities might be a bit tougher to set. The Pugilist's counter is very, very powerful, but it requires the enemy to be right next to you in order to be able to proc. Otherwise, Poison Barb is just sad. And then the Magic Guard is really good if you're fighting magic-based enemies. And if that's the way you're using her, that's what I would set, because I think staying alive a bit longer is really important. So more than dealing some damage back, in my opinion. Now, her main job, we've seen Raldor's kit, and it's the exact same kit, basically. So we won't have to go into too much detail. She can move and attack. She can increase her own HP and defense for a while. She's got a 3 squares in front of her human killer attack that's very, very powerful. And with her EX job, it will become even stronger. So yeah, keep that in mind. She can eventually hit very, very, very hard. She's got the ability that increases in potency every time you get hit, so she's meant to take a couple hits and then hit even harder. She can increase strike attack for allies. It's fun. And her maxed out EX job ability is a move that has some range, deals damage, increases her defense, and decreases the target's healing power. And that's interesting because typically in War of the Vision, units buff before getting in combat, but then when they're fighting, they don't really generate other buffs on them. And she has the ability to keep increasing her defense throughout the fight, possibly making her much tankier, while other units' buffs have all worn out. The Pugilist's sub-job, I would say you probably won't use too much because she has some other nice sub-jobs, but it can heal her a little bit, and then it also gives her the ability to decrease the opponent's attack, which can be interesting. But now, the sub-jobs are really what I find interesting about this unit. In the Ninja sub-job, we have access to a 3-hit slashing chain for the Earth element. Now that's nice. It can be really useful in raids, and her limit burst that we're not seeing here reduces Earth resistance for target. So in a raid where we will fight or an enemy weak to Earth, she'll be really good, reducing his resistances to Earth and then chaining on them. So that can be useful for some specific content, but I personally really like the Spellblade sub-job on her, because that will allow her to tank magic and to generate hate for a much lower cost than the Paladin job's Taunting Blade. So the really nice thing about Taunting Spell is it only costs 18 AP. Now, it probably won't do much damage. She's a unit that's built off attack and not of magic, so I would not expect that to kill enemies that much. It's really just a hate generation tool, but it's one that you can use early in the fight, and that is worth a lot, in my opinion. She also has the ability to increase magic resistance for her and her allies, like all Spellblades, which is a great ability in most contexts. Now, she could already go up to 27 magic resistance with her passive, and using magic resistance on top, we are now above 60% magic resistance, so a very impressive amount altogether. Now, just taking a quick look at her Limit Burst here, it's an ability that decreases Earth resistance in a single target. So it's basically the same as Eileen's. If you're running Earth teams, it can be very good, but as a single target ability with such a high AP cost, I would not say it's incredibly useful in my opinion. I would probably prefer just having her use different attacks than throwing this out. Alright, so the big question, should you go for them? So my answer will be, do whatever you want. And the reason for that, if we're taking a look at the roadmap from here, we're getting 2 great units right now. We're getting 2 other great units very shortly, which will be El Sorel and Garvel. And then we'll be getting the anniversary with Final Fantasy X, a bunch of other great units, then eventually the collaboration with Nier Automata with another bunch of great units. All the roadmap that's coming, they're all great units, and they're all really good and really fun and really unique. So you have to pick between going in a unit now or going in a unit in the near future. There will have to be choices. So, yeah. Specifically, Winter Viktora, I think, is very unique because she's our first ranged attacker with a lot of bulk and then the ability to completely ignore defense. And that's something that I think would be a good kit in anyone's account in a lot of content, right? You can use it to snipe specific teams in Arena. I think she can be a very powerful unit. And then so can Winter Vinera. If you're fighting magic teams and you want someone who can just take them out very easily by being able to tank their hits a couple times and then just getting to them and one-shotting them, that's a great unit for that. I think she's comparable to Rain in terms of bulk, where she tanks magic attacks really well and then has a lot of bulk against physical attacks as well. The only difference is she hits with physical attacks rather than magic. So if you like Rain's playstyle, she might be a good fit for your team. But yeah, should you go for either of them? Honestly, if you like their design and you want them, and you're aware of what you're going to possibly be missing out by investing your vision or right now, go for it. I think they're really fun units. I'll probably be going for one of them myself. I'm not sure which yet, because I just really like them both. So yeah. So that was it for me. I hope you enjoyed it and learned a thing or two. And yeah, please let me know if there's anything that I could improve in those videos. I'm really learning here. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Are you going for them? Why? So yeah, that's it. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of those videos. It will make it more likely that those videos appear in your feed in the future. And then thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.